All right. What's happening, everybody? It's me, Robert Phoenix, doing a little Matthew McConaughey shout out, sort of. Watched Dazed and Confused, I think, for about the 20th time last night. And I was really struck by what a thin movie it is. I mean, I love it. Don't get me wrong. It's really My American Graffiti, right? Like I think in 70, I think that was a graduating class of what, like 76, I think. I'm 76. I was a sophomore in high school. And I love the movie, don't get me wrong. So many indelible characters and the music is just, perfect for each scene. But it's just a really thin movie, I have to say. Let's see. I want to start off with, by the way, hi, everybody. How are you? And normally I come in and do some shout outs, and I'm going to do that. But I saw a comment that I wanted to post, and it's from Mary Lee. And I want to comment on this comment. This full moon is really hitting me in a horrible way. I'm just overwhelmed with the melancholy. You know what? I can relate to that. I can totally relate to that. There's something in the air that is very profound, very deep, and very sad. Right? And you would expect to experience something like that with a Pisces full moon. No, this is an Aries full moon. And so the vibe is supposed to be like aggressive and stimulated and now. It's all about the now. And how do I say this? I had this experience today looking at somebody. And I said to myself, and they're clearly, alive. And I said to myself, that person's dead. And it was the weirdest feeling. It was the strangest feeling. And I got to thinking about sort of the ephemerality of our experience here. And really what we've been experiencing individually and collectively, which is closing time. This thing is shutting down. If you're not paying attention, I don't know what to tell you. This is closing time. And I just felt sort of this kind of overwhelming sadness in some ways. And I don't really go into depression or melancholia. That's really not my calling card. It might have been when I was younger. But I just felt like something is passing. And then I read that Tim Wakefield, who played for the Boston Red Sox, and was a knuckleball pitcher, and he won 200 games. And I remember watching a documentary on the knuckleball, and he was one of the main characters because, of course, he threw a knuckleball. How about that? Tim Wakefield passed away today at 57, and I just keep hearing more and more stories. I got a pipeline from my mother, people in California, relatives, friends, the people she knows, they're dying. These aggressive forms of cancer that are being just absolutely triggered and sped up. And it's all happening. It's all happening. And I wonder, and that's just from that vector. I'm not even talking about some of the other stuff we're going to get into tonight. That's just from that vector. So I totally relate to what Mary Lee is saying here. I totally get it. Yeah, big full moon, huge. I'll tell you what else was big this morning was the sun. The sun was. I got up. And I went for a walk today, and I walked. Maybe it was how I started my day. I walked down the country lane. I've got 50 acres of cornfield with no corn in it. And there's one cow. There's one single solitary cow in the field. And the poor cow looked kind of pathetic. He had some like, stringy corn grass shit hanging out the side of the cow's mouth. It's like, you poor cow. And then there are these other cows on the side of the road. The other side is like a whole group of them. Like, hey, we're over here. Cow party's over here. You're not here. I just felt really bad for that cow. And then I had an evil thought. Let's get some bolt cutters. Let's free the cow. I saw this video of this woman. I'm not sure what to think of it, but I'm going to give you my thoughts about it anyway. She bought this $200 lobster for her dinner. I think she's somewhere in Italy, like the Amalfi Coast or something like that. And she made a big fucking deal about returning the lobster to the ocean. There's a pretty good chance that lobster is going to get caught again. I'm sorry. Who knows? Maybe the lobster will repay her in kind. Maybe the monad of the lobster will look over her from that point forward. You can never underestimate the monad of the lobster. It's a very powerful spirit totem. How come there's no spirit cards or animal cards with the lobster as your spiritual totem? Nobody ever says that. Oh, my spiritual totem, my power animal. My power animal is an eagle. My power animal is a puma. My power animal is a wolf. My power animal is a lobster. That's right. Fucking lobster. Deal with it. Anyway, we're going to try to bring a little humor in here. And Mary Lee, I can totally relate. By the way, we've got people that are having to cancel for the event. Not many, just a couple. And due to parental illness, one kind of on the fence. So there's that. It's in the air, man. It's in the air. And we're going to try to do our best to get into this thing tonight. Try to make heads or tails. Tomorrow's the EBS thing. I don't get a good feeling about it, honestly. We're going to look at the chart. I've got the chart wired up and ready to go. I don't think it's a great chart. What else? Shiva, Dr. Shiva was on my show. It's right on this channel. Holy shit. When you look at his chart, you'll understand what he's all about. I don't have his birth time. I kind of rectified it a little bit. I made him an Aries rising. He's got Jupiter in Aries. I made him an Aries rising. I think it suits him. We'll get into his chart. Probably one of the... it's really interesting because I'm not sure how much I actually really interviewed. Like I know I asked him questions. I mean, that guy can just go. You just turn it on, he'll just go. He'll talk about anything. And he'll talk about it in a very articulate. I mean, he knows. Super, super smart. Knows a lot of stuff, right? So I did ask him questions, and I thought I asked him some good questions. We had a good vibe, though. Like Shiva and I had a good vibe. And I thought it was a great... it's one of the most compelling interviews I've ever done. And I've done a lot of interviews. And he came out with just guns blazing. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it. I find it hard to believe that it's only gotten the amount of views that YouTube is advertising here. If you look at the amount of comments versus the amount of views, they don't really add up. They don't match up. So we'll look at the chart for the EBS signal, which is really the chart. It's not quite the chart for now, but I guess we could kill two birds with one stone. as we look at that chart. So we got that lined up. We've got Shiva lined up. We have some eclipse, just some eclipse vibes, which I'm feeling, where you kind of, because this moon is opposite the eclipse. Oh, by the way, I do have a couple extra slots for the event. So I have 2 rooms that are available. And I have a phone number on my website. You can call that. And if you're interested, let me know. It's going to be great. I'm going to do my best to stream all of Saturday. And that's going to be, when I say stream, it's going to be pay-per-view. So I'm setting it up with Boxcast, and there's going to be 3 main speakers on Saturday, the day of the eclipse. There's Shauna Home, who's an Aries. She's fantastic, and she's going to share her story about, I hate to use the word manifesting because it's so mundane and so trite, but we'll go with practical magic, because I knew Shauna at a time in her life where she barely had a pot to piss in, and it wasn't long ago. This is after she had written 2 books. One of her books is criminally underread. It's a great book, really, really, really great book. It's about her life going through divorce and finding, I think, truth and illusion through the mushrooms. And I think Shauna will tell you that she found both through the mushrooms, and was a very intense explorer with psilocybin. And Shauna has spent time with like shamans from Mexico, real people, teaching her real things. So she's not some weekend psychedelic warrior, right? She's way more than that. But I knew her when she didn't have a whole lot of money. And then all of a sudden she had a vision about what she wanted in her life. And 2 years later, pretty much, she got it. So she's going to share that story with us, and some of those, I guess you would call them secrets or tips. And her story is really fascinating. And she's going to be there the entire weekend. It's a person that if you are in their space, right, you can tap into that person. You can ask them questions. Like, it's not just, hey, I'm here for the talk, and these people are gonna be there the whole weekend with Shauna. And then a late addition is Dr. Narco Longo, and he'll be presenting on Saturday, and I'll be presenting on Saturday. And he's got a really interesting presentation lined up with so-called sacred sites and eclipses. All that'll be available, fingers crossed, through a live stream on Boxcast. And I am going to come up with a price for it, because there are people that have come all the way across the country to attend the event and paid good money for it. So I don't want to cheapen their stay, right? So, but I promise I won't gouge people. But it'll be enough for you to stick around and pay attention. And if you sign up for it, and you, let's say, watch one talk, and you skip out on the other 2, you'll still get a recording, because the entire thing will be recorded. So that's great, right? Anyway, just stay tuned, and I'll have more details on all of that. And I've got a couple extra rooms. So go to my website, robertphoenix.com. There's a number at the top. You can call it. I have to clear up my voicemail so I can get your call. But if you're interested, we can make that happen. All right, who do we have here? My man, DJ MC, Michael Sisterdino. Ryan is here tonight. Hello, Ryan, president of the International Woodworkers Union of the World. Ashley G. What's going on, Ashley G? We got a G in the house. TJ, Tomas Jordan, meow, meow. Good to see you both. Sky Sage, hello. LMM, she'll be at the event. Leela Marie will be demonstrating how to connect in with tremor release therapy, right? TRE. She's going to be there. It's a new live demonstration. She's got some guinea pigs, and they're going to jump in. So that's going to be way cool. We got all kinds of people, all kinds of tools. Kelly and kids. Hey, Kelly. Okay, we're gonna make sure everybody. If Kelly doesn't call back, if Kelly doesn't come back, go find her. Peter Bayonne, what's going on, Peter? Good to see you. Diane Evans. I've tried to access. I can't find it. Play it even. Well, Rumble works. 15 minutes got taken down by two hacks. So I'm working on the site. Anyway, let's see. Who else do we have? I have an older iPhone. It might. Here's my man, W.C. Ray. Susan Chappelle's here. Hi, Susan. The Scaled Raven. The Scaled Raven is amongst us. Ladies and gentlemen, please take note. Good to see you, Scaled Raven. Glemma Spank. What's going on, Glemma? Trisha Yamamoto. Maria Deonge. Maria Deonge. It's funny. I did the Star of the Day on Brigitte Bardot, and Maria said that she's popular with Le Pen people. I can see why. It's a Sag rising. Sag rising, man. Sag rising is really expressive and works it. They've got the truth muscle. Veronica's Barn. What's going on, Veronica? We hope you're doing all right. Healing with a feeling. Animals of Florida. What's happening? Bo. Good to see you. There she is, the lovely and talented one. Miss Jones. Jones sent me a picture today. I think she might have been like, I don't know, 9 or 10 years old. Maybe I should put it up here. What do you guys think? It's kind of a goofy picture. I have to say, cute, but goofy. Should I do it? I'll scroll down the comments. I'll see what the peanut gallery says. Penny Struthers, can you download the app? I can't access with my Rumble, my phone browser. What's up with that? So they're going to outlaw Rumble, I think, in where is it? Canada? Is the guy who owns Rumble Canadian? Hello, Valeria Rubens. Gala Travelog is here. Celtic Queen is here. Moonsprout is here. Moira, NYC. Are you bailing out there? Are you staying dry? Jesus. What's going to happen to all those cars with engines? Sayonara. Water damage. You don't get that car anymore. Think insurance companies are going to pay off for those cars? I don't think so. Big Sky, yay, you made it live. We're here for you. Double B, Beth Berry in the house. It is October, the 1st of October. Rita Perea, the ultimate life coach, is here. Good to see you, Rita. My man, Kevin. Every time they mention Taylor Swift tonight during the game, throw up in a bucket. Viola, new game. Oh my God. That's kind of like the opposite of a drinking game. That's like a hurling game. Jeff Rosen videos. What's going on, JR? Maya Rose. Always good to have a Maya Rose appearance. Yes, Peachy. Peachy's got a big little mouth. She's got a big little mouth. She's got a big little mew. Renee, it's good to be here with you tonight as well. Claire, hi Claire. The paper dragon is here. Hanging laundry. Arlene Vega. Bodhisattva. I love that name. Just here, let me give you a little Bodhisattva. Let's see, who else? Still hot here in Texas. Never ending summer. Getting ready for the onslaught of people coming for the, I know, right? The hordes will come. What's that going to be like? I mean, besides the eclipse, or in conjunction with the eclipse, got all this humanity. It's going to be well. Speaking of human, oh, Amy Gill. Hi, Amy. Shout out to all our fellow Libras. This man is going to be at our event, Mark S., doing his cruelty-free cartoons. You guys have seen him on the Friday Forecast. And if you're here, you're gonna. By the way, those are thumbnail versions. On the Friday Forecast, he does more in-depth, detailed versions in person. That's what you're going to get at the event. Shirley Losciavo. Shirley, I actually have an idea for you. I'm going to reach out to you. I'm going to reach out to you. I thought about you. I thought about an idea. I'm going to reach out to you. Hello. Jan Emily, I look great. I haven't been here all year. Too busy. I just moved. Hope life will slow down a bit for me now. Good luck with that. Is life slowing down for anyone? I guess. Who is life slowing down for? It's not slowing down for my mother. She's doing more shit since she's been here than she did in California. I can tell you that right now. Like more stuff. I got to go into physical therapy. They're whooping her ass. She's having to work hard in a good way. Let's see. It is, right? Paper Dragon. The vibes are heavy, man. Can you guys feel it? Sony's here, the classy one. I've been feeling blue too. I swear to God, there's something in the air. Something's ending. Can you feel it? Like something is ending. I can feel it. It feels like we're coming. I mean, truly, this epoch, this time that we've been in for a while, just feels like they're going to pull back the curtain, right? Show's over. Circus leaving town. I wonder if traffic is going to be nuts on Thursday for the eclipse. I would say marginally. The good thing about Kerrville, to get on Highway 10, once you get off 10, pretty much everything is there. You don't have to do a lot to get to places. Kelly Boyles checking in from New Mexico. Susie Gemini. What's happening, Suze? WC chimes in. Get a little premonition, perhaps. Last night was the craziest dream I've ever had. Start scared, too real. Ooh. For him to have a dream like that is something. Diane Evans checks back in. Yep, with the melancholy. Swirling. Paper drag areas right, so it's not been too bad. I'll go with too bad. Let's see. Time to watch Melancholy again. Rob Scanlon. What's going on, Rob? Good to see you. We've got a Rob Scanlon sighting. My town Bernie is getting ready for all the people coming. How do you prepare for that? It's going to be nuts, man. We'll be over 1 million people in the hill country. Al Bruna, listening from work. I hope you're enjoying your work. The Walking Dead kind of feels that way. That's what it felt like to me. I felt like I felt like I was around a bunch of people with expiration dates. Weird. Heather Rue. Hi, Heather. Kara A says, strange times indeed. Yes, very strange. I always find Aries full moon is a collective dark night. Ego death. Interesting. Embrace what brings you the greatest joy. Where's Peachy? Lynn chimes in. Melancholy? ? Me too. How about the past from over 40 years coming back to say hello? Well, it depends on who or what the past is. Maybe it's good. Maybe it's the past that you don't want to say hello back to. Let's see. Who else do we have? Oh, Kelly's back. Back for the show. Good. We didn't have to chase you down. Lana, anyone else think the thumbnail had Boy George up front? Let me see. I got it right here. Let me check it out. A little bit. I think I've used this one before. A little bit. I can see that. Brittany Maddox, what's happening? More clients losing loved ones. I agree. In relationships. Crazy how many people have died. Yeah. Okay, so are people getting used to it? Right? That's the other side of this. It's like, oh yeah, another one. I feel the dark winter looming. Yeah. Hanging laundry. Just left a visitation for my farmer neighbor. End of an era. There you go. Nicotine. Peter brought this up here. Let's put this up here. Nicotine has some very interesting effects. Very interesting. The additives and the tobacco and the paper are not so interesting, but nicotine is pretty interesting. Let's see. Marge is here. What's happening, Marge? Saw something about the jab having to do with the escalating cancers. Well, if you're paying attention, there are quite a few people that are connecting some dots here, and some of them are very mainstream people. Super mainstream. Hey, Fran is here. What's going on, Fran? Good to see you. Curtis Moonflower. We're seeing it. Today on horse race, horse and rider hurt and dead. Ooh. Joan brings in turbo cancer. Yep. I can't tell you how many stories I've heard. People have had cancer. All of a sudden it's back and it's at light speed. Look at that. Cindy Taylor validating my sun watch. It looked huge, right? It's like, whoa. Because usually you think the sun in the morning kind of, it's like reasonable, like a tangerine maybe. This thing was a fucking grapefruit this morning. It was like, whoa, check that out. Oh, I tell you, nobody really thinks about this. But lots of orphans from the turbo cancers. That's true. Tom Dars is funny. Robert's pastoral adventure sounds something like from a German romanticism painting. Yes. The lone cow chewing the stringy remains of the earth, its cud slightly slack-jawed, looking at me quizzically from behind the fence. Somehow I knew it was asking, why me? Why me? You can see it right from here. I mean, kind of in the distance. It's like a lone cow. Somebody get that cow a companion. Silence of the beef. It's funny. A heron. Good morning. Well, good morning back to you. Let's see. Who else do we have? I heard something like that it was freed into a freshwater lake. That is stupid. I hate, it's like, what a virtue signal. Total virtue signal. Let me free the lobster. She goes back to the table, strutting around like she's Fidel fucking Castro because she freed the lobster. A toast to my lady. Let the lobster live. Violet Aurora Myths, hello back. They shed their shell. They do. Yes. Who's willing to claim the lobster as their spirit animal? Lobsters are great. Claire's spirit animal is a wolf. Ooh. Yeah, spirit lobster. I like those blue ones. Those blue lobsters are cool. Jordan Peterson has dibs on. That's good, Alberta. I know, right? You did all that field work with lobsters. Oh, it's Wednesday. Oh, thanks, Joan. I'll have to correct that then. It's still bad energy. I looked at it. Lobster is the most overpriced food on earth. Well, there are some people that might say that Wagyu beef might be equivalent to it. I don't know. Let's see. It's Wednesday. Yeah, it is Wednesday. EBS is Wednesday. Yeah. October 4th. Yeah. I got my days mixed up. He's her lobster. It is the 4th. You guys are smart. You're on it. Let me in fact, while you're on it, let me do this. Let's do this. Let me go in here. It's still, I looked at the chart last week. The energy sucked for this chart. And I'm usually, hey, optimistic. Let's find the good in it. I'm looking at it and going, oh. All right, give me a sec here. There it is. On the other hand, yeah, there it is. I got it right. I had it right. On the other hand, my 49ers whoop some towards the end. They kind of whoop some ass tonight. Susie got a Faraday bag. That's cool. EBS. It's the 4th. It maybe could be emergency broadcast system. I'd love to see his chart. Yeah, I think he's an Aries rising. I could have asked him his time, birth, and maybe I might have gotten it, but it's kind of like, hey, would you mind if I got your birth time so I could look at your chart on my show? I don't think he's opposed to astrology either, by the way. So I did a little Aries rising on him. 2:20 p.m. emergency alert. Shiva has only one speed and one direction, forward. Yeah, it was a good interview. Well, okay, to clarify his marriage with Fran Drescher. They were together for about 2 years. They had some kind of ceremony. I don't know what it was, but they did not have a specific marriage contract. So they had like the vows thing. And they lived together for 2 years. And yeah, didn't work. Shiva is not a good listener. Depends on who's in the room. I think it depends on who's in the room. It's got a Mercury-Mars conjunction in Aries. I don't think that's wired for listening. Some people are. They're fine apples. He doesn't need to listen. That's what I was talking about, right? Like that's the thing. Some people are just that, right? They're just that. And he is that. Some people are this. right? They're this. They're just taking everything in, listening, taking, and some people are this and that, and this and that. Right? He's just that. That's all he is. Put your phone in a Faraday bag. They say to turn off the phone on the 4th. Yes, I have heard the same. I found people to be poorly behaved during the full moon, all of them getting secret mind orders from Planet Pop-Tart. Let's see. Shiva has a chip on his shoulder. You know, sometimes that motivates people. That's my take. Some people need that chip on their shoulder. You know, when I played basketball, I used to play a lot of pickup basketball. When I played basketball, I played angry. Well, not too angry though. You play too angry, you'll get in trouble. I crossed that line a couple times, not many. But I would play basketball with definitely an edge, right? Like that. I wasn't going out there to make friends, although I was, friendly competition, everything. But I get it. It's not a chip, but there's an edge. Does he have a chip? I think he's got some, I think it's really challenging in some ways to put yourself in another person's shoes and to grow up in a country where you and your family have no chance, none whatsoever. I mean, it's not like the United States, man. I mean, at least you got a fighting chance here, or you did. Now, if you're like, part of that caste, you got a better than fighting chance in this country, at least the version that we're used to here. But imagine growing up in a place like that. You're really fucking poor. You're a total outcast. There's no chance for you, and you're really smart. And you look around and you see that, and you're a Sagittarius to boot, right? And then every step along the way, you're fighting against this caste system. And I think that the Brahmins they're just planetary now, or that caste is in the realm, and it cuts across all these different cultures and religions, but they're there like that thin veneer. So his fight isn't just with them and his past and his upbringing. It's sort of the exploded version of them. I can see why he would have a chip on his shoulder, and then kind of getting screwed over, a number of these steps along the way, especially with the email thing, which is interesting. And I don't disbelieve him that he invented email, because what they had before, like with DARPANet and stuff like that, it was like they were sending text messages. That's what they had. And Shiva created an inter office, inner office function, like email that we know today with the BCCs and attachments and stuff like that. He did that. He did that at 14. And nobody has said, people have said that he didn't, because there were these things going on in California at the time with it's ARPANET is what it was called. But I don't, if this guy is really into truth, then why would he lie about that? Right? Why would he lie about all the other things that he's on about? It doesn't fit the profile of the character. Let's see, who else? Who else do we have? Yeah, I mean, he's not everybody's cup of turpentine, right? I like him. I remember the first time I saw an interview, man, this motherfucker's smart. I'd like to have him on my show. That's a smart dude. What the hell is he doing? Where has he been? Who is he? Right? All that went through my head. Let's see what else we have. Seems extremely Americanized. That's a good observation. You know what it reminds me of a little bit? It reminds me of when the Dalai Lama, not Dalai Lama, what's his name? What's his name? Rinpoche, right? Rinpoche, the guy that started. Oh, damn it! Now I'm having my. I didn't think about this. Rinpoche. It's in Boulder, Colorado. Let's see. By the time I get it, you guys will already have it. Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche, Naropa Institute. Anyway, when he came to the United States, he had a wall of TVs, and they were all tuned to different stations. And that's how Rinpoche, Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche, how he caught up on American culture, became slightly Americanized. They use that as a scene from The Man Who Fell to Earth with David Bowie. He played Thomas Newton. He had a whole wall of TVs. He was doing the same thing. Somebody probably been to Boulder, in Naropa. We're going to look at his chart. Who else do we have? There's my man, Al Dog. Let's bring him in here for a second. So, Al and I do a sports astrology show called Sirius Sports. It's on its own channel. And we're going to have this gal on tomorrow night. So last week we looked at Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce's chart together, right? So did my little breakdown. By the way, forget about that relationship. Just forget it. It's not going to last. But besides that, we talked about it. And then I think it was Wednesday, S.J. Anderson, who is an astrologer, reposted this gal who was on ESPN. And she actually did their charts on ESPN. I'm like, what? What? We did that? So, of course, I'm thinking, did ESPN watch our show? Is that what they did? Did ESPN watch our show? Say, hey, let's go find an astrologer. I don't know. I don't know about that guy. I don't know about him. Let's go find somebody else. And yeah, they can talk. They can talk about it. Let me see if I can find this. Where is it? Where are we now? All right, where's my tweets? Give me a second here. Da, 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 da. Da, da, da. Da, 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 da. What did you guys think of Elon Musk down at the border? Mr. Cancer down at the border. You buy it? You buy it? I kind of do. I think he has some investment in Texas for sure. He lives here now. And he's also a South African. So we know what South Africa went through and what Rhodesia went through, Gracie. So Gracie wound up on ESPN. And she's a pistol. She is a pistol. Anyway, she was on ESPN, and they did this whole breakdown. And I'm like, I gotta have this gal on my show. She's into sports. So we're going to have her. She's interesting. North Astrology. So she's going to be on the show tomorrow night. Gracie at North Astrology. So we're going to talk some astrology, some sports, find out how she's sharp, man. She's really sharp. I like her feed. And then in hour number 2, we're going to have my Aquarian buddy, Glenn Streeter, and we're going to talk about Aquarian models of healing when it comes to sports and sports medicine, and just what they're able to do now with some of these technologies that are available to people. So it's going to be a really interesting show. Anyway, thanks, Al, for hooking us up. Let's see. It had its waters muddied, manifesting with the integrity by some. Yes, Dr. Shiva, very intense. Peter, I hope there's going to be another one too. We'll hold space for it. Dr. Shiva is hilarious too. Right? He's very funny. Sagittarians are funny people. They have very good senses of humor. Some of my Sagittarians. Bill Hicks, Richard Pryor. Let's see. Kristen Bell. Hi, Kristen Bell. Shiva's an intense guy. That is an understatement. Steve Borg is here. Steve, we're talking about lobsters. I bet Steve has had a lobster in the past week. That's what I think. Who else do we have? Yes, indeed. Interest rates for sure having a huge effect. They're not letting up, are they? They are shadow banned. I believe they are too. I totally believe they are. I must be on some shadow ban list. I don't get a lot of views on Twitter either. Uh-oh. Peter getting entheogenic. Pay-per-view. Yeah. I'm going to reward the people that are there. The people that are speaking. Let's see. Oh yeah. You're welcome, Claire Jones. I thought it was pretty epic. Like, he just like went off. Totally went off. But it wasn't like he was just talking to himself though. Although he missed my joke that my nickname for Deepak Chopra was Deep Pocket Chakra. I tell you, Shiva's a borderline misanthrope. It's what happens when sometimes you see things just too clearly. Like, I don't know, I could go there easily, but I don't, I'm not wired like him. He's got all that Sag, and I think he's an Aries rising, and he also has Jupiter in Aries. So how he handles it, just one direction. I would not handle it the same way. I would do more introspecting. You know what I mean? I would go, well, what's going on here? What's my best course of action? Not that he doesn't introspect. Probably just introspects at a faster rate. Let's see. Who else do we have? Julie Costner is here. Ojos Azules. I haven't seen that name for a while. Integrity and Karma. Happening here. Lunchbox, give me a call. Give me a call. Look at that. Leela finished her presentation today. That is so Capricorn. That is such a Capricorn move in a good way. Let's see. Hey, Jake. Gucci the Goat's in the house. Oh, Steve's in Dakota kayaking. No lobster. No lobster for Steve.
Let's see, who else do we have? So is given from fallen angels according to the book of Enoch. Gave us weapons. Why is only astrology demonized? Why is only astrology? No, well, if you look into the Bible, they really demonize necromancy. Necromancy. I don't believe that astrology is necromancy. I mean, they actually specifically spell it out. But they also come out against diviners in the Bible. But isn't that what the three wise men were doing? Right? They were divining things. They divined that if they went in this direction and followed the arc of Jupiter and Regulus, that they'd get to where they needed to be. So there's divine, they were diviners. They were magi, right? They're magi, they're magicians. That's who they were. And they knew the map of the heavens. Why is astrology demonized? It's an interesting question. I mean, outside of the passages of the Bible, because clearly in India it is not demonized. Very different system, and even Shiva talked about how I wanted to. I was trying to get him to talk about what the astrologer said about him, but he kind of moved on to another subject. You know, once the express gets rolling, you know, you're on for the ride, right? So, but clearly the Indians don't demonize astrology at all. Not at all. Is it a hangover from the fallen gods? Possibly. I mean, I always felt in my perception, or my field of perception with astrology, that it came from Sirius, right? That whoever was here gave us the stuff. That was because when you look into like astrology, Freemasonry, Sirius plays a huge role, and they talk about exoplanets, and the Freemasons know a little bit about astrology. So, we're the fallen ones from Sirius. Yeah. A lot of stories about creator gods from Sirius, Nomo of the Dogon. That's my sense. But you're right that they gave weapons of war. They gave all these different tools, and here we are. Put down your swords for protractors. Steve Letro had the lobster. Steve, I bet you had lobster last week. Hi, Lunchbox. Still really about the Dr. Shiva talk. Hopeful. My sun and X both have Sag rising. I'm 28 Scorpio rising with Jupiter and Sag in my first house. Virgo, Sag rising, Sag moon. I'm kind of there. Kind of there. Should I put it up? Tom tells me, she says, all right, let's do this. This Rumble, sir. I know they are in Canada, and in Canada, the thing about Canada is going through a whole thing around the online stuff anyway, besides Rumble. You got out of the city for a wedding. Are you going to bring back an inflatable raft? All right, let's look at Shiva. This is what I think. I think this is Shiva's chart. And I know a lot of you out there in astrology land doing your own astrology experimentations. Chime in on this. Right? Actually, that's not the one I wanted. I want a different one. There we go. This is the one. Right there. There it is. All right. So, Mars conjunct the galactic center. His Mars is conjunct my Jupiter. Maybe that's why we got along. His Mercury is conjunct my Jupiter too. I think that could be some of it. Yeah. So Mars conjunct the galactic, any planet, when I say like a major planet, Sun, Moon, Mercury, Ascendant, Venus a little, I think, Jupiter, Saturn, all those conjunct the galactic center, all have a sense of being connected to something important, like an imperative. Like it's like a tractor beam that kind of draws you in to this field because you feel as if you're destined or fated, which I think are two different words. But people will feel that like, this is it. This is my destiny. And lo and behold, it's this great attractor. I think it's a 26, 27 now. It's right in that 26, 27 space of Sagittarius. There's just this unusual certainty that you're on some kind of a mission. And the reason I know this is because my Jupiter is at 25 Sag. And I remember being like 4 or 5 years old thinking, fuck, man, I got work to do in this place. I have a very unique purpose. Nobody had to tell me that. I knew it. And I think that's the effect of the galactic center. And he's got it right there, right? So you got to, if you're wondering why it's all thrust in Mars and thrust in Mars, it's because of that. It's the conjunction with the galactic center. It is kind of this unending, tractor beam to just move forward. And he said that the greatest thing that we could do is to fight evil. Like, that's why we're here. Some people will say, well, what are we all here to do? Well, we're here to serve, or we're here to love, or we're here to break down our ego and personality. We're here to find the other. For him, what's the greatest purpose? Fight evil. That's what he said. So that's that Mars. And what's interesting about that Mars is it's kind of in a wide conjunction with Venus, but different signs. And I could see that he could have a challenging time in relationships. And he's got that South Node. What's fascinating about this chart is that with the South Node in Capricorn, it's like he's already been president, right? He's already been like the Raj or whatever, right? That's the South Node. Been there, done that. Well, my Saturn's on the South Node. That's kind of interesting. Ironically, his true node is in Cancer. So when I look at what he's doing, he's running for governor, he's running for senator, and he's running for president. Those are all Capricornian things. They're all Capricorn stations on the hierarchy or of hierarchy. Like, wow, that's interesting. But he has some unfinished business here with Venus in this wide conjunction. So what that says to me is that as he moves through this quest, which is a very Capricornian quest, it's not the quest of a householder or not the quest of a country doctor with the true node, or you know what I mean? It's not the same. But he's going to meet people along the way with that Venus. Like, there are certain relationships. Like, he's got a ton of them. He knows, hung out with Donald Trump and Phil Knight and Fran Drescher. So I think that's kind of an interesting part of his south node. But I don't think relationship is easy for him, right? One of the things, I mean, he's got some water in his chart, but it's not what I would call accessible water. He has a lot of asteroids. Almost all of his asteroids are water. Pallas, Juno, Neptune, Sirius. I don't think I've ever seen that before. Throw in a little black moon, Lilith. All of his asteroids are in water. That's really a trip. Oh, except for one, Vesta, which is conjunct his sun. So he gets his water, or the watery content emerges from the underworld. You know, it's the water of the underworld. And Pallas in Scorpio is quite psychic, very, very psychic. And Juno is about the new, right? Creating something new. To me, this feels very inventive, you know, like super inventive. And definitely, you know, Scorpio, you can go either way. You can go light but there's no gray area with him. He does have that Saturn-Neptune square. So Saturn-Neptune square, could humanize him. But the other thing with Saturn-Neptune is that it's one of those positions where the energy just gets kind of bled out. You know, and do you know what I mean? It's like when you get into these Neptune squares, it's like you're just taking a cleaver into the planet, and it's just kind of gushing out. He's got a really interesting chart. I mean, I think he's got the chart of a warrior, and that's what he is. You know, you got Sun trine Jupiter, right? I got him in Aries rising. He's got the chart of a warrior. But this, to me, this Saturn Neptune, I mean, I think if people wanted to make a case for his bitterness, I think it would be the Saturn Neptune square, and that really cool, detached Saturn in Aquarius. It's very scientific, and probably related to just how smart he was as a kid, precocious, right? But not getting what he needs in a lot of ways from these, you know, quote unquote paternal figures. Saturn Aquarius will reject that. But this square is interesting. But he has all this really powerful intuition. Look at that, loaded up there. And he's really interesting. He's got the water connection between Chiron and Neptune. To me, I got to say that is kind of an underlying sensitivity that people don't see. I do think that underneath the fury, I think there's somebody that cares. That's what I think. I think that there's a sensitive guy in here. Does that sound corny? That's my sense. And he's got, you know, all this Sagittarian armor because he's going to battle. And, you know, I wouldn't say that this is the soft white underbelly, but it's definitely way more sensitive than what's going on up here. And that trine with Chiron, I think, actually gives him a lot of empathy. He probably has more empathy than he lets on. That's my sense. And then there's he's got this moon in Gemini, and just coming off this full moon. You know, people will call it a full moon. It's opposite his sun, right? It's just a few degrees off. That's a full moon. And people that are born on full moons, they are here to be seen. You know, they fucking light up. They illuminate. That's what people who are born on the full moon do. They illuminate, right? So anybody that you know, either personally or out there in the collective, who has a full moon, just in their chart, just think about it. Look at them. Hell, my mother was born on a full moon. And I could even see it with her. When she was navigating through, her governmental job, she did incredibly well. And her full moon happened to be in Virgo. So, what was she seen as? She was seen as really good worker, right? Somebody that can depend on and count on. And so with Shiva, he's got that moon in Gemini, he's going to be seen as being really bright. To me, that's the precocious energy. It's that moon in Gemini. And that opposition with Mars and Mercury, it's like, that's so restless. But you can see why he is seen as somebody who's really, really intelligent. And not only just intelligent, but has his fingers in all these different subjects. It's not a very feeling moon. It is not a feeling moon. And most people that have moon in Gemini need to talk about their feelings. But they won't talk about them in ways that are really lovey-dovey. You'll break it down. It's kind of analytical. You need to talk about it, need to process it. What does he have that Mars square with? The Jupiter square? Jupiter square Venus. I could see that getting played out in that Fran Drescher relation. Like, oh, this is interesting. This is interesting. Let's roll the dice. Let's roll the dice. Let's see where it goes. I can see that. I think Jupiter-Venus squares. If he's got his Venus in Capricorn, it's funny that Jupiter could open that up and make it a bit more accessible, right? But on the other hand, it can also shut down the possibilities too, depending on how those experiences and relationships have been processed, worked out. Now, what else do you have? Sun Uranus square, of course. He's a rebel. He's a fucking rebel. And Sun Pluto square. Yep. Intense, right? Very interesting chart. I don't think it's a presidential chart. I really don't. And it's that South Node. That doesn't mean that you can't support him or you can't support his ideas. Hell, I support him. And I support his ideas. I'll even buy a bumper sticker. He's better than the rest of those clowns. I can tell you that right now. But maybe he needs to find the right first lady. Maybe that's just it. He's got to find the right first lady. And once he lines that up, he's good to go. No, this guy's a warrior. He's a warrior. He's a warrior and a teacher and a sage. So it's funny. I was talking with my buddy Johnny today, and we were talking about kind of the state of the world. And we're looking at what's going on in the United States. And I said, the only way we get out of this is if we have just an absolute fucking tyrant. An absolute iron-fisted tyrant. That's the only way we get out of this. Because we've reached this level. Well, I was being slightly facetious, but not. Like, you just can't run this version of the system because it's broken. It's completely and utterly broken. And you can't run this version of the system and think you're going to win or overthrow the forces of evil. Inertia, right? Entropy, whatever. You're not going to do it using this, well, let's just vote harder. Have you looked at who is running elections? Of course you have. Have you looked at the wave of people who now have jobs in public service and the government? Have you checked that out? Like, that model is not going to work. It'll work for somebody else, but it's not going to work. So we've got a few things that we can look forward to, which we'll talk about on the Eclipse side of things. But if we're going to play this game, though, bring out the strong man, bring out the tyrant. Because that's the only, and that is not Trump, by the way. Trump is not a tyrant. Should Shiva play that role? Maybe. Crack those whips. No, he's a warrior teacher. That's his role. And he has unshakable confidence. Look at that. He's got that Sun Jupiter trine, almost bang on exact. That's who he is. He is a warrior teacher. But we're going to be encountering all these themes of power with the true node in Aries. Obviously, Mars and Libra, different kind of power, but true node in Aries, we're going to encounter the Saturn in Aries, the Saturn-Neptune conjunction in Aries. I'm going to talk a lot about that at the event. And I've talked about it some here on the show. Man, we are headed into the rapids. You guys ever raft or canoe? You ever do that? You're kind of paddling along and everything's cool, right? Oh, isn't this nice? It's pretty, beautiful. Then all of a sudden in the distance, you can see things starting to change. Oh, what's going on up there? Oh, no. And all of a sudden, everything picks up and you're going faster. Next thing you know, you're shooting these fucking rapids and you are just, your eyes are wide open, right? And if you've never been in that part of the river before, you don't always know what to do. So that's where we're headed. We're headed into the rapids. We're going to be shooting the fucking rapids. And it's all starting with this eclipse cycle. More in April. But this eclipse cycle gets it going, primes the pump. And if we look at these eclipses as part of a series of events, and how can you not look at the 2017 eclipse, which cut the country right in two, and then what have we been since then? We've been a house divided. Was like a hot fucking knife, metaphorically speaking, through butter. And the one in April is that, to me, that's the one that really, we get into the energy here, but we're looking at those three eclipses. And then after that, the Saturn ingress into Aries and the Neptune ingress into Aries, which happens simultaneously. So we're dealing with all of this Aries energy now. And it's very intense. It's very intense stuff. So maybe this is what we're feeling. It's not just the outcrop of the eclipse on the 14th, but it's the eclipse cycle that we're in, which ultimately culminates in April of next year. I'm going to be straight up. We've got about 500,000, to the best estimate of my ability, 500,000 young, soldier age, or young men from all over the world that have come here in the last 6 to 7 months, even probably less than that. That is huge, huge. Fighting age young men. The ratio, I don't know what the ratio is, but I see the videos. I'd say it's at least 6 or 7 men to every woman that comes in here. I could be completely wrong. Maybe I'm too low. I don't know. Right? But this is what I'm seeing. And this is all the Aries energy and not good Aries energy. Look, I get it. The world is a shit sandwich. And to a large extent, there are components in this country that created that shit sandwich. There are. It's funny. I was listening to Ocasio-Cortez, and she was on one of these talk shows, and she said, well, we really have to look at why we have all these people coming to this country. We have to look at the roots and the cause of immigration. And she started talking about Venezuela and how they started to put sanctions on Venezuela. And this happened when Trump was president because they didn't want They wanted this guy Juan Guaido to be president. They didn't want Maduro to be president. Maduro's a socialist. He's not good for business. So what did they do? They started. I think the sanctions may have gone all the way back to Hugo Chavez, to be honest with you. But now you have a Democrat president, and I don't think he's lifted the sanctions on Venezuela. Not to my knowledge. And yet AOC is complaining that this is what it is what we do. We sanction the shit out of countries. Did it to Iraq, we do it to Syria, we do it to Iran. We don't like you, to Russia, sanction, sanction, sanction. It's a soft war. In some cases, in other places and other times, they consider that a fucking act of war. You know, if you didn't allow goods and services to get into a certain territory and you were blocking those were terms for fighting. And we've been doing that, right? Or at least components. You haven't been doing it. I haven't been doing it. If they asked us to do it, we probably wouldn't do it. But there are components inside of this country that do it and have done it. And so, you know, they've played a huge role in fucking up the third world and making the third world kind of uninhabitable to some degree, right? So now the third world is being shipped around, coming here, because they want out. And life is tough in a third world country. And I think we're about to find out how tough it is. All right. Let's look at this chart. It is the October 4th chart. Grab this thing. EBS, the cousin of IBS. All right. Where is it? I just had it. Hold on. This segment brought to you by True Hemp Science. True Hemp Science, your one-stop shop for all things hemp. CBD, highest quality, grade and order. I had this twice. All right. I'm just going to have to recreate it. Okay, let's do this. Are you with me, Dr. Wu? Here we go. EBS. Now, I have heard it's 12 noon in New York City. That's what I've heard. So that's what we're going to use. We're going to use 12 noon. Okay, here we go. Thanks for your patience. Let me throw in all my asteroid goodies. You back here. Are you with me, doctor? See this. There we go. All right, let's bring it on the stage. Check it out. There we go. Voila. Oh, no, that's not it. Fuck. Yeah. Come on, Dad. You can do it. No, you're supposed to be over here. There we go. All right. October 4th, 2023, 12 p.m. New York, New York. This is what when I looked it up, that's what I saw. I do not like the energy. First of all, we've got this Mars South Node conjunction. And it's coming in and squaring Pluto pretty hard. And we got yods all over the fucking place with this chart. All right, let's peel it apart. To me, the Mars South Node conjunction in Libra. There's a lot of talk on Twitter today about women getting drafted. Like apparently, women are getting drafted in Ukraine. Like, apparently, they actually have suits that can accommodate pregnant women fighting. What the fuck is this all about? And there are rumblings here, murmurs about a draft. And not just for our young men, right? So we get into this whole female warrior army infantry energy, right? Because it's kind of circulating through Twitter. I'll show you a clip here before we're done. There's that. But with the South Node, we're also, to me, this is like, it's like bringing up a grudge. That's what it feels like. It feels like it's bringing up a grudge, something from the past, something with a vendetta. Somebody's got a vendetta. Now, I'm not saying that you're going to run into that person. They're going to execute their vendetta on you. That's not what I'm saying. Collectively speaking, this is the energy of vendetta. That's what it feels like, getting even, right? It's like I'm going to settle the fucking score. But it has nothing to do with what's happening now. If Mars was on the true node, it would be with what's happening now. It's on the South node, so it's something from the past, some kind of transgression. Look, this thing could go in any number of ways with that South node Mars conjunction. I mean, what have we been sort of on trial for publicly the last 5 to 6 years? Racism and slavery. Rights. And not just black rights, but pink rights, rainbow rights, trans rights, right? Like this has all been what we've been dealing with. And probably very intensely around the time of Trump, or just around the time Trump was starting to get elected, and echoes of fascism and racism and sexism, all of which were clearly attached to Trump. Like those would become the vapor trail for the next 6 years. So this is what we've been dealing with. So there's a lot of people kind of running around with these grudges in their head that they've never ever really experienced, but they've been told deep enough and long enough that this has happened. It's happened in a certain way, and it's one of the reasons why you're unhappy. And unless we eradicate it, there's never going to be any happiness or contentment. This is the atmosphere that has been concocted over the last 6 years. And not everybody's buying into it who are part of some of those groups, which I've mentioned. It's not everybody has taken the bait, hook, line, and sinker, but some have. And it has absolutely fundamentally, philosophically changed their being. And we get enough people that are changing their being in that way, it becomes viral. Like, I don't know what the 100th monkey is, but maybe when you got to the 1 millionth social justice warrior, it kind of went viral, right? It went to another level. So this is what we're dealing with here. We're dealing with something from the past. And this is all on this October 4th, where we have this EBS day. The Mars square to Pluto, I'm not a fan of, right? I am not a fan. That's really violent. It's a violent fucking square. And then you're dealing with the South Node. Let's back off. Let's take a look at the yod, right? We've got Neptune here. Oh, Uranus here. Look at that. So you got a yod with Neptune, Uranus, Mars. Whoa. So how the yod works, this is the back end, right? Uranus is sort of, driving Mars from back here in the blind spot. Something's there, but you can't really tell, right? That's what this 150-degree quincunx is. So Uranus is driving Mars. It's like compelled. There's feeling, and it's kind of reckless too. The energies, it's retrograde. You have Neptune back here, and that's kind of a weird, kind of slightly messianic, compulsive. Somebody's on some kind of a holy mission, right? That's just this energy alone. And I haven't even I haven't taken into account like the EBS and the signal. Uranus is definitely a player in this chart. Saturn moves back into a square. It's a wide square, but then we have the Saturn-Uranus square. Now this yod is. Can you get zombies out of that yod? Maybe. Then coming back the other way, we got another yod on Neptune. Man, we got all these intersecting yods. It's crazy. So we have this yod on Neptune, which is coming back the other way. It's coming back from Mars because Mars is in a sextile, right? You got a little Mars sextile here with Venus. So Mars-Venus sextile. Now they're the back end down here to Neptune. Wow. Cooler heads prevail? Maybe. Feels very blindsidey. Wow, interesting. Not in a good way, though. What else we have? We have another yod. Father Yod. That was the guy from the Source family. I remember him. Anyway, here we go. Saturn in conjunct Mercury. We got Mercury at 29 Virgo, anoretic. Wow. Final degree of Mercury on this day at this time. There's nothing left there. It's in a grand trine, which isn't bad. Some nice grand trine energy. Mercury's getting ready to change signs, but we got this Saturn in conjunct, and it's in Pisces too. Interesting. What else is going on here? Oh, then we had Pluto, Neptune, yachting off with Venus. There's a lot of confusion on this day. There is a lot of people don't know whether they're coming or going. Right? There's a lot of confusion. And we'll just take the EBS thing out of it. I mean, could the EBS piece be in here? If it is, it'd be Uranus in this in conjunct with Mars. Let's just take it out of the equation for a minute. This is crazy fucking energy in this day. Crazy energy. And when you have all of these yods, right? Like the idea ultimately is to, guess what? Connect the dots. That's what it is. Like when you kind of wake up, you go, oh yeah, this thing is compelling me. This thing is compelling me. So you have to literally intuitively walk these influences across the chart. And then by doing that, you connect the dots. But there's so many dots. There's so many points of connection, but also not understanding where that's coming from in general, that this is just a crazy batch of energy. So maybe the EBS plays into it. Maybe the EBS is just a dog whistle. The dog whistles are pretty high in terms of pitch. So I'm using it metaphorically. Maybe it's just a dog whistle for something else. And, oh yeah, let's focus on the EBS. Let's focus on the EBS. Let's focus on that. Maybe something else is going on here. Again, I don't like the energy. And the moon is in Gemini, and it's squaring Neptune. It's like, good luck. Good luck trying to process that. That's kind of crazy. Now, there's some interesting things going on with Mars and the sun. Maybe if you ride this thing out, you'll be good. Here's okay. Here's what I'm going to go with. Don't give in to the confusion, right? Do not give in to the confusion. Whatever you're feeling, whatever you're seeing, whatever you're experiencing, don't give in to the confusion. If you give in to the confusion, it will get worse. It will definitely get worse. I mean, I could see like almost parallel realities with this chart. One group of people experiencing one thing, another group of people experiencing another thing. Is that kind of what we're doing now anyway? Are we all kind of in this parallel reality world? You get this group experiencing that, this group experiencing that, but we're not experiencing it together. It's even more pronounced here. Yeah, crazy chart. And all those inconjuncts. Did I miss any? Did I miss another inconjunct? Get the yod there. We've got yod. Oh man. Here. They're just all over the fucking place. All over. For me, the disturbing aspect is this Mars-Pluto square. That one is very intense. And because Mars is on the south node, again, we started off with this idea of a grudge or a score to settle. That's what it feels like. That's what it feels like, regardless of the EBS stuff. But we'll throw the EBS stuff in there, and there's plenty of a scattered array of energetic sources and projection. That's what these planets in the yod position are doing, right? It's like it's a scattered array of projection. So it's just tons of scattered energy. And trying to corral all of them, you get a couple of them. You can maybe figure out one or two. I'm not sure which one. This is nuts, really nuts. I guess we'll find out. And hopefully next Sunday night, we'll be able to have a few good sources. You know, when this whole September 23rd thing came up, I didn't really see it, right? I saw that, like, the weird thing that happened with the plane. You remember that? With the plane in South Carolina? And I said something really weird and anomalous was going to happen in the next couple of days. And that clearly was very weird and anomalous. It was like, people were, what? And it felt like it had something to do, if there was anything that was going to happen on the 23rd, it was going to be linked to that thing because of what we saw in the chart. And who knows? Maybe that was scuttled. Does anybody know the real fucking answer about that plane? Really? Does anybody really know? There's a lot of stuff that happens, and it just gets kind of shoveled beneath the surface. Right? Do you remember? I think it was right around the time that Trump was running for office, maybe in 2016 or right after it. And they had this bomb go off in Nashville. Do you guys remember that? Like, that was really fucking weird. Like everything about that bomb thing was weird. And it just went away really quickly, and you can tell when something is a psychological operation and not. Right? If that had been a psychological operation, every day that bomb went off, we would commemorate that. And this day, 6 years ago, that a van parked outside a bar in Nashville, I think it's an apartment complex, exploded, shocking the city. The residents of Nashville have been reeling ever since, right? That didn't happen. Did not happen. So what the hell did happen? Something really weird happened. And when I see stuff like that, I tend to think that there is kind of a different kind of war going on that we don't know about at times, right? Like we have all the talk of the white hats, black hats. And while I have not embraced the white hats versus the black hats, when you see things like that, it feels like there is this thing going on, right? Like somebody did something and scuttled something. It could have been way worse. That was my feeling about that. And there are all kind of weird little, Easter eggs or cookie crumbs around it. Like there was some weird shit. It just went away. Just like this thing with the jet last week. It happened. And maybe what was supposed to happen with that jet didn't happen. Maybe that was the minor version. We don't know, right? There are events that happen that we don't see. And guess what they do? They affect things. They affect things. They affect the event canon. And you may not see them, you may not know about them, but they happen, right? So the 23rd didn't go off, but there was that weird thing. The weird thing with the jet. I don't know if you guys saw the guy who they interviewed him. The guy was like lives in South Carolina. Oh my God. That was a fucking interview. It was entertaining. Anyway, and then I looked at the 23rd. I'm like, no, I'm not really feeling it. There's something here. There's something here with this chart. And even Black Moon Lilith, which is just moved into Virgo here, is 0 degrees. I do wonder if this has something to do with Contagion. When I see Black Moon Lilith move into that 0 degree of Virgo, it's like, okay, here we go. Bring on the TikTok nurses. What the fuck was that about, too? What was that about? Like, they don't even do that anymore. It was like this weird mental state, this weird mental condition. And now they don't do that anymore. It's like, come on, do some more TikTok dances. What, you only dance for the dead? Is that it? You only dance for the dead? Come on. We want more TikTok dances. Nurses, you medical professionals, let's do the lambada. The Macarena. Anyway, yeah, this is it's just changing signs. Going into Virgo. This is dark Virgo. Interesting. Now, this Mars is in the Gemini decan. Interesting. Okay, we got Mars in Libra, Moon in Gemini. It's also part of the Via Combusta, or the burning path, which starts at I think right around 24 degrees. It goes from 24 Libra to 13 or 14 Scorpio, right? That's where the heat supposedly comes on. So this is in the Via Combust. What is the Sabian symbol for? Let's do 24. Let's look at that. Let's see. Here we go. Let's look at 20. It's 24. Double check Libra. There's some strange symbols right around these degrees. It's about, so 24 Libra is about mutation. Isn't that interesting? Here, let me zoom in here a little bit. Oh, we missed the mutation. Good. Okay, so we're at 25 Libra. Whew. Missed the mutation. Wow, but this really gets into what we were talking about tonight. If you weren't here at the beginning of the show, people were sharing their experiences around melancholy. And look at this Sabian symbol for 25 Libra. The sight of an autumn leaf brings to a pilgrim the sudden revelation of the mystery of life and death. Not bad, since she actually did these with a double blind. She got autumn leaf at Libra 25. That's not bad. The ability to discover in every experience a transcendent or cosmic meaning, the mind open to the multifarious wonders of natural processes because it sees everything with fresh eyes, not only witnesses simple facts, but pierces through appearances and perceives the great rhythms of universal life. Without such a faculty, the aspirant to spiritual realities is always looking for elsewhere. Yet the spirit, life, God, is ever present now, and every death is an omen of rebirth. At this fifth stage, the 41st five-fold sequence of phases of the cosmic process, the implication of the four preceding stages, are brought to a new state of consciousness, which is truly the spiritual state. It is a state of clairseeing or seeing through. This world is illusion only to the individual who cannot see phenomena and fails to apprehend the reality these phenomena reveal, even as they conceal it. Well, that's interesting, right? So the symbol says that there are people that have the ability to see into and through things and understand the meaning, energy, or significance behind those things. And in this case, it has to do with the sudden revelation of the mystery of life and death. So for those who have eyes to see, like that is a veil that's parting, right? For other people, they may not be able to do that. They may not be able to handle it. So there's something about Mars which brings us into a conscious awareness of the revelation of life and death. And the image of a pilgrim is also interesting because we think of pilgrims and the Mayflower and colonization and all the things that go along with that. And that somewhere in the New England coast or, off the New England coast, they would come into contact with trees whose leaves would turn that beautiful sunset orange red, right? And there would be that stunning revelation, like, wow, this is this transient life form, and I'm watching it go through its most spectacular phase in terms of its color and hue, but it is going to dry up and it will be no more. It will return to dust, right? That is the revelation. Well, there's also like a pilgrim who is a hermit. He's hermetic and he's on the path, right? The pilgrim on his way to a pilgrimage of the spirit, pilgrimage of the heart, pilgrimage of the mind. That is another definition of pilgrim. And they're not too far apart if we're led to believe that that's what those people were doing. They were coming to this country in order to be on the pilgrim's journey, right? The pilgrim's quest to find new land and to find a new manifestation of God through the land and themselves. So it's an interesting word to use. And I think what is being evoked here is the pilgrim historically. So this is a really interesting symbol. And Mars goes to 26 after the symbol, which is a very interesting, another interesting one. Neo becomes a large white dove. They change into each other. So it's kind of war, peace. And the one before it, now the South Node will move into this spot. So we should look at this. We should look at this image or this symbol as well, because this one is fast. This one is about mutation. A butterfly with a third wing on its left side, the ability to develop for inner strengthening, new modes of response to basic life situations. The butterfly is the ancient and traditional symbol of the results of the process of spiritual rebirth. If the butterfly has 3 wings instead of 2, a special development of an aspect of the spiritual life is shown. This is a symbol of fulfillment. Some power has been added to the normal spiritual life of the individual person. The left side usually refers to the instinctual field of the consciousness, but it is also the heart side. A new strength is shown, perhaps as yet unrealized. Remember, that's coming from the past. That is coming from the past with the South Node. A 4th stage symbol usually refers to some kind of technique or technical achievement. What is implied here is that the contact with the riveting life force, the 1st stage symbol, can result in the appearance of a new faculty, the use of which may not as yet be consciously evaluated. Indeed, it is the establishment of such a contact which constitutes a technique for original mutation. That's where the South Node is going. Mars is headed towards here, an eagle and a large into each other. The interaction of the spiritual and of the love principle when critical needs arise, that's very interesting too. These 2 symbols, one that typically is war and the other is peace, and they're kind of morphing back into each other. And that's a very Mars and Libra kind of exercise. But there's something here, right? There's something here at 25. It brings a revelation, an insight, a deep insight. And things are headed in 2 directions. Now, if we played with this idea that the EBS and all of the dark prophecy around this thing, right? The latest recipe for doom is that the phone's going to go on. It's going to trigger the breakdown of the hydrogel and release the nano oxide, right? The graphene oxide. That is kind of the word on the street. Just saying. What if that does happen? Are people going to mutate? Quite possibly, right? Quite possibly. I mean, we've all gone through, in some ways, our craziest fucking scenarios. Next thing you know, we're in a version of The Walking Dead, right? But that's literal. That's literal. The non-literal interpretation of that is more, well, it's literal in the sense of what's happening with the EBS. The non-literal or the non-immediate interpretation would be something more along these lines. And our ability to mutate, our ability to take on different kinds of insights and gifts. And, what did Jesus say? You can do all of this and more, right? I mean, that came out of his mouth, theoretically. Ye can do all this and more. Okay, we need to start getting on to the more part. Because if we're going to deal with the world situation as it's going, we're going to need the more part. We're really going to need the more part. And maybe that this is the beginning of that. Pay attention. What do you know? What do you see? What do you notice? What's going on? What are you feeling? What are you dreaming? What kind of phenomena are you in touch with, or is in touch with you? We should pay attention between now and Wednesday. Because I think it's about time. Here, a little philosophical jag. Isn't it interesting that we have moved into this time, and it was very apparent if you weren't paying attention, with Pluto and Aquarius, where we see these, what I would call outward manifestations of mutation, right? We and again, if you are dressed like this, or you have donned this apparel, or you have adopted what I'm talking about as a lifestyle, I am, or some form of adornment, right? This is not personal. I am not making fun of you. But when we look at the array of people who feel like they've just shown up, and they're very different, right? They're very different, and they've got, and I get off my lawn guy. They've got, rainbow hair. I mean, I'm not here to put them down, but they're different, right? It's almost like a mutation in the species. And it's almost like we've externalized that, instead of internalizing it, that there's been this kind of outward, and you can even make a case of critical theory in all of its, sort of trance-like effect. Critical theory has given people in their minds weird superpowers. And so therefore they're kind of mutating outwardly, but not really internally. Right? And is that, are we jumping the shark here? Is this what's happening? The type of mutation, explosion of spiritual power and spiritual gifts being railroaded, so that when we see this kind of new face of humanity, right? It's in a weird way, and I'm not saying that we should express that internally. Right? I'm not saying. I'm just saying it's symbolic. There's a symbolic shift and split of the outward manifestation of exactly what Rudyard's talking about, mutation. So is it a railroading of the energy, right? Could be theoretically already much further along our spiritual and what would I call it, cosmic application of our beings. And really, we've been stunned for a very long time. What would happen if this was all grounded, right? And and there are people that can do this, right? What would happen if you could biolocate? You could totally biolocate. What would happen if you could be in a crowd or be in a group of people, and not because you're not interesting, but just vanish, right? What would happen if you could stop time? What would happen if you could manipulate the weather, right? All these things have been a part of the human experience in other cultures. And what would happen if we could tap into that? Because that's what we're going to need. That is what we're going to need. And I'm doing my best to kind of plug my wiring back in, because I used to have a lot of phenomena. So this is the meeting point, right? Right here. It's this revelation. It's this revelation of the transcendent. And Mars goes here, and then the South Node goes there. Interesting. What do you guys think of that? All right, let's see what's going on in the chat. What are you guys talking about? Peachy, the Astro Cat goddess. Let's see. New comments. Let's go all the way down to new comments. The solar eclipse, let's see, relates to the Saturn-Pluto conjunction, January 2020. If nothing happens, that Saturn-Pluto conjunction was a fucking game changer. Total game changer. Something's got to give. Yep. That's what I think too. If I'm going to disappear, I will need to start wearing a cape and carrying smoke bombs. However, man, I actually did that one time. I was a little altered, let's put it that way. I was with a friend of mine, and we were walking through this club, right? And he turned around. I was right behind him, and he turned around and looked at me, and he couldn't see me. He could not see me. And then I kept walking. He's like, where the fuck did you go? So it's right here. He said, no, you weren't. I just turned around and looked at you. You weren't here. So there are things that happen, right? There are things that happen that are non-local. And a cool cape would always be good. Never pass up a cool cape. People on the East Coast were not wearing masks at all. It was so refreshing. Completely different story here on the West Coast. We're starting to see more here in Texas. Not as many, though. I feel like the devil is going to tap me on the shoulder any minute. Activation of superhero energy can happen during an eclipse cycle. Well, let's get into it, right? It's about time. My favorite eclipse moment is in Apocalypto. It's a fucking badass movie. Great eclipse moment. Could be Bolshevik Revolution 2.0. Here we come. Look, we're already in it. It started. The Bolshevik Revolution started on May 25th, 2020, when George Floyd was choked. That's when the revolution started. It was a color revolution. It was purple. Activation of the superhero light workers fractal. Yes, please. Why not? Let's see. Who else do we have here? I talk to dead all day more than the living. What do they say back? I'm actually curious. This is such a complex time. It is. Jesus Christo, great take. Yes. If we're gonna, I talk to dead relatives in dreams all the time. It comes in waves. Well, I'm telling you, man, we are capable of so much more. So much more. And you know what's happened? And I'm guilty of this. It's this fucking box right here, right? Like the internet, which I still love, but the internet, cell phones, frequencies, social media, it's put us in this fucking box. We've built a cage for ourselves, and we're so much more than this, right? We're so much more. We're reduced in some ways to finding proof so we can back up our point of view and show that motherfucker online that I'm right and you're wrong, and kiss my ass, right? We're much more than this. And I remember the times where we didn't have all these, these pieces of hardware to connect us in the way that we become connected. Life was, I think, a lot more interesting. It certainly was more mysterious. And there was also, I think, more of a sense of magic. Now, don't get me wrong. I can experience some magic through what I do. And I'm using technology to do it, right? When I work with a client, have some real magic. You know, I had this experience a couple days ago where I was with a client, and for some reason, I wanted to make a point about his chart, and I brought up Ken Wilber, you know, the metaphysician, and I was going to make a specific point about Ken Wilber as it related to his chart. And I said, you know Ken Wilber? This is a guy that's he's very smart. So there was probably a good chance that he knew who Ken Wilber was, and I could have a discussion about what I wanted to kind of infer and then bring it back to his chart. Said, oh yeah, I know Ken Wilber. Turns out he was part of Ken Wilber's group. And I'm not sure how long. My sense was it was a fairly long time, but not exceedingly long. And what he was trying to do was he was trying to bring some of his ideas and some of the things that he thought about into the wider discussion around Ken Wilber and his work. And he just got shut down, right? He got shut down, and eventually he left. And I don't know where that came from, right? But it came from somewhere, and I could use that example, and it was so local to him and his experience. And the reason I bring it up is because it happened through the internet. So I don't want to completely demonize this, right? We had a Skype session, not Skype, Zoom. So there are good things that we can do here. We're talking, we're connecting, right? We're having moments together, unlike any other time in human history, except for maybe Atlantis or Tartaria. But we know what the downsides are. And I'm getting to this point now, even on Twitter, I'm getting to this point where the hang is getting harder and harder. And it doesn't have anything to do with, you know, getting into beefs with people. I am seeing content coming at me through Twitter that I cannot unsee, right? Like, there are certain things, and then you think, okay, is this where this is headed? Well, if this is where this is headed, we better get fucking tough, right? When this is the Aries energy, here comes the true note in Aries. It's like, buckle up, Buttercup. There is that, but there are things on Twitter. It's like, oh God, I didn't need that. I really didn't need that. And there's a lot of entrainment that goes along with it. Now you've got Mark Zuckerberg, again, true note in Aries. What does he do? He brings out his meta glasses. So instead of putting on the big fucking goggles and walking around like a fly, you can jack into meta with his goggles, which are glasses you can wear. Very true note in Aries, right? Plugging in directly into sort of the neocortical reality through the forebrain. Yep, interesting times. I actually don't know how much I'm going to go tonight, to be honest with you. We started at 6:30. It's 8:30. We've had a good discussion. We talked about Dr. Shiva's chart. We talked about what's going on the 4th, which I'm not crazy about. We've looked at some Sabian symbols, which I think are very interesting, especially the one that's transcendent. You know, that's a very interesting symbol, and where they fork off and go in other directions. I don't know how much more I have to talk about tonight. Oh, should we talk about the female warriors? Why don't we do that? Because it's in the headline, and I need to give it some props here. So here we go. Let me go into let me find this. Yeah, this is from Angelica, who has a really good Twitter feed, and I'm psyched that she allows me to see her tweets. She brought this up. So this is part of what I was wanting to get into. It will oblige a majority of countries which have been sloganeering fighting for democracy, future is female, equitable sustainability for all, and W supremacy is the greatest threat since climate change. Women have been emotionally voting against their best interests for years, applauding self-destruction. While in real life technologies, women cannot be men, the globalist mafia have cunningly convinced you otherwise to accomplish their net zero goals. Thus, you will be drafted for self-removal from planet Earth. Can you run to save your life, and how fast? Look at this. A law on military registration of all women liable for military service has come into force in Ukraine. The obligation applies to Ukrainian women aged 18 to 60 years. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine a 58-year-old or 59-year-old woman in Ukraine being conscripted? You know what this is? This is genocide. This is genocide. In most cases, girls liable for military service tend to be physicians with qualifications of a doctor, dentist, obstetrician, nurse, pharmacist, and pharmacist. To the very last Ukrainian. It's kind of a tongue-in-cheek there, right? It's kind of heartbreaking. Yeah, old women being sent to the front line to die with the 40 to 50,000 already dead, their sons, husbands, and fathers, so the Dims can feel morally superior. Yeah, I mean, this is that Mars and Libra energy. They're just mowing down their male conscripts, right? They're just blowing through all those young men, right? And now they're theoretically, unless they become pharmacists and physicians and nurses, they're going to blow through these young women. This is, to me, this field being very genocidal. Like, if you really wanted to wipe out a population, like your own people, theoretically, right? Start a war. Start a war, get rid of them. And then you can bring in the new batch. You can bring in the new people, the ones who are perhaps more desirable, although Ukrainian women are clearly very desirable. They have been for a long time. And a lot of trafficking in that whole Ukraine scene. Right? I mean, they're plowing through the men. Let's go with the women now. And how far or how quickly does it take to spread? How quickly does it take to spread? If you've ever seen Starship Troopers, Robert Heinlein talks about this in the book, and Paul Verhoeven in the movie portrays men and women fighting right next to each other on the front lines. Like Starship Troopers is pretty woke in some ways. In other ways, it's not. But it's pretty woke. But that's what Heinlein was imagining, that men and women would be fighting together against the giant bugs of Klendathu. Are we that far away from it? I don't think so. I don't think so. The other thing too, and this doesn't have anything to do with the women. Oh, I like that light change. Is that there's this guy who is being, did I show you guys here, let me show it to you. I may not have shown it to you, I apologize. This is what we're looking at right here, right? Right there. To the very last year. 2.3 million fucking views. That's not shadow banned. Yep. Can you imagine? 58 years old, being dragged out. You. Not great. Not great. All right. Just wanted to make sure you saw that. So there's this guy named Charles Brown. And this gets into the South Node conjunct Mars. Charles Brown he's being nominated to take over for Miley, however you say his name. He's been targeted for taking over for that guy. Charles Brown happens to be black. And he has come right out and said that we need to have less white officers. That is a Mars and Libra South Node conjunction. We're going to even this thing up. That's what we're going to do. Well, how far are you going to even it up? Are you going to slice and dice it and have X amount of Latino men and women, Asian men and women, Sikh men and women? I mean, what are we talking about? One group's a majority, a dwindling majority, but you're going to slice that up and kind of repopulate the field. You said that. That's a total Mars South Node Libra conjunction. And that's the military, right? We're going to make it fair. We're going to make it equitable. Okay. It'll be interesting to see what happens when this guy gets, I guess he's got to go before people like Matt Gaetz and that whole crew. So maybe they'll rake him over the coals a little bit, and then he'll get approved. Then he'll get approved. How would you feel if your daughter had to fight in a war? I'd feel fucking terrible. I'd feel terrible my son have to fight in a war. I would tell him not to go. Say, don't go. Don't go. I got your back. Don't go. And that's really our greatest hope, right? Is if they had a war, nobody went. Then they have to break out their drones and their robot dog attack force. But that's really what we should all do. It's like, fuck you. We're done. We're over it. We're not going. Somebody else's kid. Right? And maybe that's part of the tipping point. Maybe that's part of the nexus. And I had talked about how there was this rumor of starting this kind of new psychological program. And if you think about Taylor Swift with Travis Kelce, it starts to make a little bit more sense. So just to remind you, if you haven't heard this before, I talked about it before, where there was this producer in Australia, and he was talking about what the plan was. The plan was that they were slowly going to turn the tide on men. And like turn the tide meaning like, okay, you guys have been a whipping post for the last 30 years. We're going to lighten up a little bit. And what we're going to do now is we're going to celebrate the idea of the warrior and the soldier. So what do we have last week? We have Travis Kelce, who plays football. Football is a game that's based on the military. It's about conquest, right? You take another person's territory. That's what football is about. You have things like when a quarterback throws a long pass, it's called a bomb. When a running linebacker charges across the line, it's like a blitzkrieg. It's a German term, right? Football is all about war, all about war. So you have Travis Kelce, who has Mars and Libra, by the way. And I believe he has Mars on his South Node. Ooh, right. Wow. Interesting, Travis Kelce. Cleaned up on that on those Pfizer dollars. Anyway, Travis Kelce plays for the Chiefs. They've got that arrowhead, right? The arrowhead on the side of the helmet, very Aries-like, tip of the spear. That's what the arrowhead is. So you have Travis Kelce now hanging out with Taylor Swift, which is fake as fuck, as far as I'm concerned. If you've ever seen the women Travis Kelce's gone out with, dated, they're like thick Instagram models that are about 2 or 3 shades darker than Travis. Okay. He likes the thick Instagram model. This is a different look. There's a deal being made with these two. Total deal. So now you look at Travis Kelce and you're going, oh, he's got Taylor Swift. This rugged macho guy has Taylor Swift. And if you're a Swiftie, which is a thing, I guess, you look at Travis Kelce and you go, ooh, that's a real man, right? That is a real man. So this Australian producer said that they were going to start to move in this direction, that over the next 2 years, they would reinvigorate this idea of the warrior, and that the warrior would get the woman or the girl, the one that everybody would, kind of pined for and wanted. And Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift fit into that mold, right? So it feels like maybe this is part of this cultural indoctrination so that they could theoretically get our kids fired up to go, fight somewhere against the Russians or, in a kinetic war. So keep your eye on stuff like this. If you see more things like this, and it's also interesting too, there's this meme. I just thought about this. There's this meme that started to go around, or it was a meme or a TikTok video. It was a woman talking about how her boyfriend thinks about Rome all the time. Have you guys seen this? Have you seen this? How often do I think about Rome? I never think about Rome. Maybe I'll think about Rome maybe once a week. And then I ask my boyfriend, how often do you think about Rome? I think about Rome all the time. This is what I'm talking about, right? The fucking meme gets in your head. Here's this woman. She's not unattractive, right? It goes out to all these ears. Like Rome, yeah, attractive woman. Maybe I should think about Rome. Maybe I should think about conquest, right? And it's all in the true node. It's all in that true node zone in Aries. And you can see it, right? You've got Travis Kelce, the tip of the spear, the chief. And he's with America's sweetheart, right? Taylor Swift. For everybody to see. That doesn't count the Pfizer deal, the Bud Light deal. That's a different story. But that's what you see. And then this weird meme, like, where did it come from? How did it get promoted? It got promoted. And then you have all these people. Well, I think about Rome all the time. Really? You think about Rome? Yeah, I think about Rome all the time. I don't think about Rome all the time. I do think about Tartaria a lot, but not Rome. You see what I'm talking about? So there can be some validity to this. Like, they think that they can actually sort of meme and scheme their way into our young men and women, but ultimately men, into our young men's brain and heart, right? They'll associate valor, not even valor, warrior. We use warrior energy. They'll associate warrior energy with getting a woman, not just any woman, Taylor Swift, right? So somebody along those lines. Keep your eye out for this. Because if we continue to see this, and yeah, the astrology will confirm it, but if we continue to see this, we know that this is kind of the path. And if that's true, then we know that the end result of this would result in something that I don't think any of us really want, truly, right? So we'll have to keep our eye out for it. There you go. A little Mars and Libra, true node in Aries. A little scenario for you. Okay. What else we got here? I'm tired of social media. I know, right? I'm tired of social media. Baby's in bed. Night, night, baby. Night, night, baby. He is a robot, isn't he? Community dances, age requires physically together. I like that. Fine Apples has some good ideas tonight. Let's see. Got plenty of other stuff to jack into. I like that. Oh, the eclipse chart. I've looked at that chart a lot already. I'll do it. You want me to do it? Actually, I kind of want to save it for next week. Space my content out a little, you know? I'm gonna look at it next week. But we have looked at it before. Are we froze or is it just me? Might have been just you, Kate. Internet is inverted. Yep, I'd agree with that. Net zero is not about human beings. Oh, no, it's not. Cynthia, you never know. You never know. 100% genocide. Absolutely. Absolutely. This is a good superpower right here. Don't know about Wiser, but my memory of my friend's phone numbers has returned. That is a fucking superpower. I used to know all that shit. Well, we're kind of in the same boat. Joni's right there. One way to decrease the population, no mothers. Pretty simple math. Guess being old has its advantages after all. There you go. The embattled astrologer predicted a lady draft some time ago. Well, David's good. Hope he's not that embattled these days. Let's see. Who else do we have? It's genocide of Slavs in Ukraine. Yep. Weren't the new Ukrainians fighting? Good call. Starship Troopers is kind of like that. Verhoeven's take on it, slightly different, but yes. It was very unisex. Let's see. Is Charles Brown trans too? I don't think so. Although you never know. You never know. Miley is a traitor. They're all traitors. They're all traitors. Any book recommendations, Barbara? How about Danny Katz's new book? I just got it. I haven't started it yet. I'm looking forward to it. It's so strange that you're talking about this now. I was listening to music from The Last of the Mohican, thinking of a scene where a man saves Madeline Stowe character from death by sacrificing. That's interesting. It's cool when that happens. It means we're in the same field together. Can Russian soldiers really knowingly shoot women? You know, I don't know if they could do it if they were right across from them, but if the women were in a place where they're storing ammo and they got hit with a missile, sure, collateral damage. Absolutely. If you're the only son, you don't have to fight in a war zone. I didn't know that. Gen X one said their kids, they'd lose their minds. Those are Gen Z kids. Oliver Anthony is a hack and his song blows. What else do we have? A shooting war would save the demonic financials. Yes, absolutely. Football is a LARPing war. Became one, for sure. More LARP than ever before. Isn't Taylor Swift a lesbian? Is Taylor Swift even a woman? I don't even know about that. I think at that level, it doesn't matter. You're just making deals. That's what I think. Celebrities are gross. No, they're not good. No, she's not. She's not. She's not desirable. It's interesting how, Lana Labante's here. It's interesting how Taylor Swift kind of started off with being like, there was like hints of Christianity around her when she was young. Like she kind of, she had that like little Christian pixie dust on her for a while. And then as she got older, that kind of changed. Her father was, I believe, either the vice president or president of Charles Schwab. She comes from a fucking elitist family, an East Coast elitist family. And she was born in Pennsylvania. Now they live in Tennessee, and she's a little country girl. But, she's like a Brahmin, Boston Brahmin blue blood. Probably. And I looked at her, like, you can go into her father's genealogy, and I went there because I went back at least 7 or 8 generations, maybe more. Like really laid out, right? Like this guy is something. He comes from a long line of like somebody's, right? Theoretically. I don't think of Rome very much either. Tartaria, yes. How many people have lost their lives because of Taylor? That's an interesting question. Depends on what you call a life. Physical life? I don't know. A personal life where they're growing up without the influence of her, or whatever that represents. That's a different definition of life. Rome, if you want. You guys are great. Look at Matt. Matt throwing up the BOC. Rome, if you want to. That's really good. That's really good. Let's see. Meme and scheme. That's what they do. They meme and scheme. I think of Roman concrete once in a while. All archetypes of self-posturing language among the elite can suck a dick. That's putting it mildly, and I would agree with that. Her coming to your town means billions of dollars. People die for much less. What's the definition of die? Let's see. I think about Rome being fake a lot. I know, right? You guys are the best. You guys are the best. All that is take your eyes off what the banks are doing. Yep. Absolutely. All right. I think we're good. Was it 9 o'clock? So we've been rolling for about 2.5 hours. I'm going to save the eclipse chart for next week because we'll have something to talk about. I'm sure more than that, but I think it'll be good time to get into the eclipse chart. And I got to save some of my material for my presentation at the event. But we'll get into it. We'll get into it next week, and I'm sure we'll have a lot more. We'll be talking about October 4th. We'll be talking about October 4th, October 5th. Anyway, I don't think you'd be weird if you put your phone in your little lead-lined sock, right? I wouldn't think you're weird. I wouldn't judge you. I wouldn't judge you for turning your phone off during that time. I wouldn't judge you for unplugging your Wi-Fi during that time, right? No judgment here. Do what you need to. Do what you need to. Go forth and do something great. Do what you need to. Go forth and do something great. Tap into your multidimensional self. Let's take this war to another level. All right. Thanks for being here. Use your head in order to discern what's real, your heart to step on what's possible. Check us out tomorrow night over on Sirius Sports. It's going to be a great show, really great show. I'm really looking forward to talking astrology with our new friend, and she's got a really fiery spirit. It's going to be cool. All right, take everybody from myself and Jasper, Peachy, and Mama Eris. We all send our love. Dr. Joan, thank you for all your love and support. You guys take care. Have a great night. Bye for now.